need this morning. How good is coffee? So good. Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are making a cinnamon swirl loaf cake, which is going to be perfect for this rainy, wintry day that we have today in Melbourne. So first up, what we're going to do is we're going to cream our butter and sugar. Actually, I need my recipe so I can tell you the quantities. Alright, so we are going to beat 115 grams of softened unsalted butter in a bowl that I have really almost like borderline melted. Because it's so cold in this house, I was conscious that it was going to harden again, so I kind of went over on the softened part, but softened butter 115 grams. You can tell today may be a wobbly one in terms of how I get my words out. Then we're going to add 150 grams of caster sugar, and then we're going to cream this together with our electric mixer. You can obviously do this by hand, but as you saw last week, I just took on the impossible task, really. So we're going to cream this until this is light and fluffy. Alright, my butter is looking lovely and creamy and a bit lighter in colour, which is what we would like. We're then going to add in our 2 eggs. Now I'm actually just going to add them in one at a time, just to allow the egg to get fully incorporated in the butter before we add the second one. Fab. Then I'm going to add my second egg. Oh, the shell is tough on this one. Eek. All right, my second egg is going in, and then I'm going to lightly beat this one in as well. Now that that is fully incorporated, I'm going to add in my vanilla. So we want roughly a teaspoon of vanilla, but as always, I always measure with the heart. Then we're going to add in our sour cream. So I have 120 mils of sour cream. You can also use yogurt if you don't have sour cream, but I just really like the tang. Ooh, the tang that it gives to this cake. So honestly, use whatever you like, but I would recommend sour cream. And then I'm also going to add in 60 mils of milk. You can use plant-based milk or regular cow milk. I've opted for plant-based for this particular recipe. Amazing, so that is all our wet ingredients incorporated. Now we can add our dry ingredients. So we have some flour, and I have 180 grams of flour, and then I also have, I'm gonna have to look at my notes for this because I can't remember it off the top of my head, gonna start again. A teaspoon and a half of baking powder. We have half a teaspoon of baking soda. We have a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, and we have a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'll leave everything in the description box below if you get confused as to how much of something I need to add. Then we'll add that flour in, so all dry ingredients are then going in. And then we're going to give this a nice mix until it's all incorporated. We don't want to do it for too long. We just want everything to come together. We don't want to form too much gluten. So we can get rid of our beater and just give that one final fold through. Make sure that all that flour on the sides is fully incorporated. And then we can set this aside whilst we make the cinnamon swirl part of this loaf cake. So let's put that there, bring that out, and bring this out. Okay, so for the cinnamon swirl part of this loaf cake, essentially all we're doing is we're taking the delicious goodness of what's in a cinnamon scroll, so that lovely cinnamon bit, out, and we're just going to pop this into our loaf cake. So I have 60 grams of brown sugar here, as well as a tablespoon of cinnamon and a tablespoon of melted butter. So we're just going to add that all to each other and give that a nice mix through. Like so, until all of that's come together. It will form a sort of paste, which is kind of what we want, so it allows us to get a really nice indication of how swirly our cake's gonna be. All right, fab, that's that all sorted. We can now bring out our loaf tin. So I just have a 9" by 5" loaf tin that I'm gonna use today. You can use a smaller one if you like to, but I just prefer this one. And then I've just popped a nice piece of greaseproof paper in the center just to help this cake come out a little bit easier, because obviously there's a lot of sugar in this recipe, so we don't want it to stick to the sides. But now it is time to assemble our gorgeous wee loaf cake. I might just move this guy out the side and have another slurp of my coffee. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add half of our gorgeous loaf batter into our tin, like so. And then we'll just actually spread this out a little bit so we can have a bit more of a flatter surface. And then we're gonna add our gorgeous cinnamon batter that we've just made, and we're just going to essentially drop this in little globules, in little pieces, all through this batter. You can see how the butter has already hardened with the temperature of this house. Honestly, I don't know how I'm wearing just a t-shirt. It's so cold in here. So we'll just pop this all over the top of this loaf cake, and then we can swirl it with our knife to achieve that like really nice swirly effect. Trying to get it all in there because that's where that goodness and flavor is. All right, so as you can see, it doesn't look anything special right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a lovely figure of 8. So that's essentially just drawing an 8, and I'm going to do around 2 or 3 of those just to incorporate some of that delicious cinnamon butter that we've just popped in, because we don't want it to be all clustered in one area. We want it to be spread out. Lovely. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty spread out to me. So I'm now just gonna add the rest of that loaf batter that we've got and spread that all over the top. Like so. Now, I don't think I mentioned before, but I have my oven preheating to 160 degrees Celsius fan. I've had that preheating pretty much since I started baking. I always forget to tell you guys. Oh dear. All right, so we're gonna spread out that top layer of batter over the top of that gorgeous cinnamon sugar. And there we go. And then essentially we're going to pop this in the oven now for 45 minutes until it's looking lovely and brown on the top, and also lovely and soft to touch when you push on the top. You can always do a skewer test and pop your skewer in. It's fine if a few little like moist crumbs come out of the skewer, but I probably wouldn't. You don't want like liquid, you know, you don't want batter still coming out. So yeah, so we'll pop this in for 45 minutes and we'll see you in a bit. Our lovely loaf cake has now cooled down. I've popped it out of the tin onto a plate, and as you can see, it's got lovely little, you can see that lovely little pocket of cinnamon batter. So I'm so excited to cut into it. But what I have done is I have made a lovely little cinnamon roll glaze that we're gonna pour over the top of this. And this is essentially a teaspoon of vanilla, 80 grams of icing sugar, and a teaspoon of milk. I have made it quite runny because I really want it to like drizzle down the sides, but not too runny that it's all just going to fall off the top. So now we can drizzle this, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can properly see this goodness. Drizzle this lovely glaze over the top. And you can see all of the gorgeous little vanilla seed specks from the vanilla paste that we used. Now if I could do this again, I would just add a bit more icing sugar or less milk because it is running off pretty quickly. All right, as you saw, we put the glaze all over, and if I was to make a few final adjustments, I would just add a little bit more icing sugar into the glaze so it doesn't all end up on the plate, because essentially that is what has happened. But that's okay. It is now time to taste this gorgeous slice. So I'm gonna cut into it. Oh, it is soft and moist and gooey. Oh my God, yum. Yum, yum, yum. The crumb is so soft. Like you can probably see that that's already just come away. Yum. Now this is gonna give me a tummy ache because of how much dairy and gluten is in here, but that's okay. We have no plans for the rest of the day. Let me show you a close-up. This gorgeous. Yum, yum, yum. Can you see all of that lovely cinnamon sugar at the bottom where we swirled that all through? It's all sort of settled at the bottom and swirled through the middle. Stunning. I'm so excited to try it. Perfect for the weather day that it is. Cheers. You know when you make cinnamon rolls and the bottom where you put the sugar and cinnamon kind of seeps out into the cinnamon. What am I saying? I can't even get my words out. Let me start again. You know when you make a cinnamon roll and you get the bottom that's all like caramelly? The bottom of this sponge has all gone caramelly where the cinnamon butter has like nestled at the bottom. Oh, yum. This is a good one. I like this one. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed today's recipe, guys. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and comment below if you make this at home or if you've made any adjustments. And as always, we'll see you next week. Bye guys.